Oh boy, it's this guy again. Yep, it's me. You already know what you're in for given a title, so let's not waste any time and get into why Dead by Daylight is a train wreck we will tolerate. Okay, to start off we should look at DBD as a fundamental experience. I know as well as you know that it's an asymmetrical horror blah blah. I won't bore you with a long-winded explanation of stuff you could piece together by looking at the box art. What is important to know though is that Dead by Daylight's root issues, that being its complete lack of consistency, is built off a few core causes. Items, add-ons, offerings, maps, and most importantly, perks. While unique and interesting game mechanics, they make balancing this game an absolute nightmare. How can you make logical decisions built on logical consistency when there are 41 killers, 923 add-ons, 93 offerings, 61 maps, plus over 300 perks? That's 1,418 different combinations to account for when designing anything, all of which drastically change the tide of balance. Even one or two perks in combination on a certain map can skew results so much that it's not even worth documenting. This is really the core issue of why Dead by Daylight will never be a balanced game. There are simply too many variables, and that's ignoring the issues I addressed in my previous video about behavior being too lazy to fix small messes anyway. With so many variables, how do you balance all of them? Well, that's the thing, you really can't without boiling the game down to a science, in which doing so removes another variable, the player themselves. You see, it's a fractal. There's no way to properly balance something like this in a cold and scientific way. The only way to really do it is to allow players to streamline the gameplay and expose exploits or issues, which, to Behavior's credit, they seem to actually listen to. Well, only when it's the killer side that's being overtuned. They're not so quick to come in and fix things when it gives the survivors the power, such as the whole Vigil fiasco and the toolbox charges exploits. But anyway, I'm not here to pick a bone about who Behavior's favourite child is. The reason why things end up being overtuned to begin with is due to Behavior not really understanding their own game, if you can believe it. After all these years of running the game, they still don't know a damn thing about it. Take the infamous hockey analogy.
But there's a common misconception that by using just kills and escapes to adjust your MMR, it's ignoring skill in the game. This isn't the truth, though. This is false. Kills and escapes are proxies for skill, in that skilled play inherently leads to kills or escapes. Think about sports, and I'll use hockey as an example because I'm Canadian. You wouldn't say they only count wins when placing teams in the standings, but they should also count shots on goal too. A more skilled player takes more shots. And while that's certainly true, it's important to remember that shots lead to goals, which lead to wins. So you can kind of cut the middleman out there.
No, Dennis. Dead by Daylight isn't like hockey. Skilled plays don't inherently lead to wins on either side. On Survivor, you can skillfully loop a killer for 11 minutes while the rest of your team runs aimlessly around the map as the players behind the screens draw onto their keyboards. And for Killer, you can do everything right only to have the Survivor bail themselves out with 1,000,000-second chances, or while their team cranks out gens at 30 seconds a time until you're down to 2 by the first hook. You see? Not like hockey. At all. That's the real issue at hand. The game designers are too comfortable in their position, thinking they know better than the player themselves what the game is actually like and how it feels to play. Looking down at their player base like, oh you silly idiots, as if you would know the first thing about Dead by Daylight. While I respect the hell out of the incredible artists on the Dead by Daylight team, specifically those in the character design and sound departments, I don't hold that same respect for the game designers. At all. They're atrociously out of touch, arrogant and incompetent to consistently ignore the rightful pleas of their community to get their shit together. Behavior's really backed themselves into a corner, and it's much, much too late to go back now. So what can they really do about it? Well, they could start by giving a damn about half of the killer roster. Houndmaster, Trapper, Ghostface, Sadako, Demogorgon, Bobber. A common issue with all of these killers is that they just cannot keep up with the insane meta right now, in regards to generator speeds. With absolutely busted combos like Hyperfocus, Stakeout, 1, 2, 3, 4 and Deja Vu, a solo survivor can pop a gen in about 40 seconds under the right circumstances. That's completely ludicrous given that everything in the game is balanced around each generator taking 90 seconds. It's no wonder only Blight, Nurse and Kaneki can keep up. To all my survivor mains out there watching this, I know nerfing generator perks sounds terrible, but what would you prefer? Generators taking less than half the time they actually require? Or would you rather keep playing Ghoul by Nurse Blight, with even those killers needing to tunnel and slog to keep up? You can't exactly blame the killer mains for playing S tiers with all slowdown and employing shortcut methods, when that's literally all they can do to keep up. For every other killer it's basically impossible. Even if we listen to the most terminally online Twitter survivor main who says Behavior should just nerf Nurse, Blight and Ghoul because they're too strong, then all that would happen is that the killer players would move on to their next strongest killer and play even more aggressively. It's an endless cycle. Nerfing the top tier killers isn't going to solve the situation DBD is in right now. It's just going to make it worse. Believe it or not, killers don't exactly get immense joy out of being locked into playing maybe one of 4 killers, with only 1 or 2 builds per killer they can run to even have a chance. It sucks. Sure, winning feels good, but the novelty of getting a 4K is kinda key running all gen slowdown wears off after a while, and killer mains would much rather go back to playing their actual favourite killers, but they can't. I feel bad for the Bubbas, the Houndmasters, the Springtraps, the Ghostfaces, and the Unknowns out there who'd rather be playing their mains, thus shaking up the variety of killers survivors see, but can't because playing anything other than the top dogs results in a crushing defeat at the hands of a stacked survivor squad who prepared for one of the top dogs. There's no getting out of it until pressure is taken off of killers as a whole. Then nerfing S tiers wouldn't result in what I previously stated. If killer mains didn't feel the need to play only the strongest killers, they'd simply move back to who they truly wanted to play. Until behavior pulls their head out their ass and both buffs the many killers who've become useless due to power creep and nerfs the many generator repair speed perks for survivors, I believe the game would become so much healthier and fun for both sides overnight. After those two things, it would then be acceptable to nerf the top tier killers because it wouldn't be effectively removing the only grapevine behavior is extended to killer players. They'd be able to diversify their characters and try new and inventive builds, and DBD would become less of a sweatfest than it is now. Before you survivors are listening and get pissed, don't worry, I'm not forgetting about you. With the S tiers nerfed and the low tiers buffed, your generator repair perks being nerfed would create more time for killers who need it. But due to the S tier and slowdown perk nerfs, you wouldn't be facing the absolute sweatlords you do currently. You'd be facing, I don't know, that one unknown you remember playing with a while after his release. More Bubbas, more Onis, more Demogorgons, more Death Slingers, more Dredges, more Doctors. You get what I mean? I'm not just saying buff killers, slow generators. I'm saying slow generators while simultaneously nerfing S tier killers and buffing the C, D, and E tiers to the point where all killers feel like they belong in, say, B tier. This would allow for more nerfs towards gen slowdown perks on the killer side. My angle is basically this. Dead by Daylight should start steering towards a meta where perks matter a lot less than they do currently. The bread and butter of this game should revolve around the survivor skill in looping and coordinated repairs on generators, and the killer's skill in chasing, tracking, and managing generators. Right now it feels more like perks by Daylight. When I'm playing a killer, I feel like I'm playing against a vessel of perks. Whenever I'm cheated out of a hit, it's due to finesse or sprint burst or dead hard. It never feels like I was outplayed. The survivor simply hit a button and got a 3-second chance. On the survivor end versing a killer, it feels like I'm fighting an uphill battle. Not against the killer though, but against their perks. Pain res into Grim Embrace, into DMS, into Pop. Even as a survivor, my biggest worry is never the killer themselves, just their build, their perks. I think this is a really unhealthy direction for the game. Perks should be just that, perks. Not huge advantages. Generators shouldn't take 40 seconds from 90 seconds for survivors with perks, and generators shouldn't lose 20% of their progress across the map and then be blocked off for 40 seconds. Generators, at most, should take maybe 80 seconds with gen perks, and the gen should lose maybe 10% progress and be blocked for 20 seconds. My point is, the perks in the current meta of Dead by Daylight matter way more than the killer's power, or the survivor's skill. It feels more like you're versing a vessel for a perk build than it does, for example, Michael Myers from Halloween. It's a glorified skin with one special little gimmick that it can do, but the rest is just the same thing that every other killer can do with the same build. And for survivors, it feels like they're constantly given second chances just by clicking a button. It shouldn't be this way for either side. A survivor's true skills should matter. They shouldn't be bailed out of making mistakes, and killers shouldn't be able to drastically change the tide of a match with perks alone. It should be their game sense and cunning. I think it's about time perks took a backseat in Dead by Daylight. They should provide small bonuses, but not passive crap like, I press E and just don't die when I rightfully should have. It should be like, I press E and make no grunts of pain for 7 seconds. That's a small bonus which can come in handy, not a 3/3 life. It takes skill to use that 7-second window to lose the killer. And for a killer, for example, it shouldn't be passive crap like, I hook all the survivors once and now all the generators are blocked for 40 seconds. It should be, I hook all survivors once and now the next 4 generators I kick will lose an extra 10%. A small benefit which rewards you for hard work, but doesn't completely obliterate an entire generator. Before either side feels panicked, nerfs to both sides in regards to strong abilities won't make weak perks worse. It would overall make every perk more useful, because neither side would have the overpowered crap you see today which makes you feel the need to run overpowered stuff yourself. It would create a balance where your raw mechanical skill as a survivor and killer would matter more than the perks you bring with you, and would allow for more creative, unique, and interesting builds. Because the game wouldn't be a tug of war of who has the better build, it would instead be, who's the more skilled team in the core fundamentals of the game. The perks would just be, to emphasize, perks. Small little rewards for skillful play, not second chances for doing poorly, or ludicrous game-changing slowdown. The same applies to items and add-ons. They shouldn't be so drastic in the strength they give the player. They should help, yes, but they shouldn't flat out give someone a second chance, or an on-the-go health state, or in some cases on the killer side, straight up give them a perk in add-on form. How would this be done? Here's my idea. create a limited time alternate game mode, like 2v8 or Lights Out, where all perks are kill switched. Then, progressively add the new adjusted perks, starting with all of the originals from the base game, and then with every update, add the perks from each chapter. For example, Update 1 would include all the perks introduced in The Last Breath, then Chapter 2, all the perks from Halloween, you understand? They would only need to listen to feedback with every set added and adjust from there. Yes, it would take work, but at this point, any option they have to fix this train wreck is gonna take work. They can't be lazy or take an easy way out. This game needs to be sorted through, and I think this would be the right road to take. The reason this would be a game mode is because changing the game so drastically would piss off a lot of players happy with the misery. But I think this would do well for the health of the game. It would allow for a good testing ground for this new direction. But anyway, let me know what you think. Is my perspective dumb? What do you think would work? Write it down below. Alright, see ya.